hate yourself. And people think you're wasting food. So you don't discuss it with people.
But it'll be a new way, but it enables life to come back again.
Over the course of several years, the royal family maintained their silence over the events that took place behind Diana's closed casket. At this moment, however, a disturbing accusation that is connected to King Charles is coming to light, and it is not what anyone anticipated. Did you find the truth to be too upsetting to reveal? Stay here with us when we finally solve the riddle. Remember to provide your email address. At first glance, everything appeared to be enchanted, as if it were something out of a fairy tale. A life of royal appeal appeared to be in store for Diana, the charming and soft-spoken young woman who came from the Spencer family, which was a family of aristocratic descent. The ceremony of her marriage to Prince Charles was broadcast on television all around the world, and millions of people watched it, certain that they were witnessing a real-life fairy tale. But things were a great deal more complicated once one inside the walls of the palace. The worlds that Charles and Diana came from were very different. On the other hand, Charles had been brought up in a culture of responsibility, structure, and frequently loneliness, whereas Diana offered warmth and compassion. In spite of their carefully manufactured appearances and smiles, the public was unable to perceive the emotional gap that was developing between them. Whatever the case may be, the world continued to maintain the image of the ideal royal pair. And then there was Diana herself, being so honest and having such a natural connection with human beings. It wasn't because of her position that she was able to brighten up rooms, rather it was because of the kindness she possessed. She was not only royalty, but she was also a real person due to the fact that she visited hospitals and hugged children without any reservations. Nevertheless, even fairy stories can have a dark side. In addition, Diana quietly suffered the pressure of living in a role that frequently left her solitary, despite the fact that the entire world adored her. She continued on nonetheless until the picture she had in her head started to fall apart gradually. The situation was becoming increasingly challenging behind the gates of the palace. What began with public displays of affection and smiles shared by both parties eventually morphed into extended periods of stillness and times of misunderstanding. In spite of the fact that Diana was taking on more royal responsibilities, the emotional distance between her and Charles continued to expand. Camilla arrived at that point. The link between Charles and Camilla never totally vanished, despite the fact that they had known each other for a considerable amount of time before Diana entered the picture. At times Diana was able to detect it, but at other times it was unmistakable. She was known to the general public as the Princess of Wales. On the other hand, she was someone who found herself dealing with a feeling of being marginalized behind closed doors. When she was younger, she used to say that her life was too full. This is not in the way that you might anticipate, but rather in the sense that there was always something that was lurking in the background of her marriage that was never spoken about. That nagging, lingering sensation that your partner's heart might be somewhere else all the time. Irrespective of the difficulties, Diana never failed to provide her absolute best effort. She was able to carry out her responsibilities, raise her sons with a profound love, and continue to demonstrate her strength in public. On the other hand, the emotional toll was continuing to mount. She had the sensation of being invisible, unheard, and all by herself. The public continued to see a well-groomed couple attending events, but those who were on the inside spotted the signals. In addition, Diana herself began to reveal more of herself, first to her friends, then to her staff, and then to the entire globe. Unbeknownst to anybody, the pressure that she carried would eventually force her to make choices that would alter the course of her life irrevocably. During the year 1992, the royal household officially declared it. Neither Diana nor Charles were in a relationship anymore. In spite of the fact that they continued to attend royal obligations, it was quite evident that their marriage was in a precarious state. It was at this point that Diana began the process of undergoing a change. She started constructing her identity in a different way, rather than relying solely on her title to define who she was. As her activity in the field of humanitarianism became more audacious, her public image became increasingly more influential. Due to the fact that she was no longer only a princess, in the midst of her own personal suffering, she emerged victorious. It was because of her crown that the crowds did not love her. It was because she talked from a place of truth that they were able to connect with her. Diana attracted attention to topics that the majority of people did not anticipate royalty to touch, whether she was marching through landmine fields or visiting orphanages. However, this newly discovered independence was accompanied by an increase in pressure. Not only did tabloids follow her every step, but they also filled headlines with rumors about her personal life. And even though she made an effort to maintain her equilibrium, the spotlight continued to shine on her consistently. Still, she maintained her concentration. With regard to her children, her work, and her efforts to achieve serenity in her life. None of that, however, could have adequately prepared anyone for the events that would take place on that fateful night that would alter everything. Uncertainty greeted the planet as it awoke. There were a variety of reports. The narrative was not apparent. On the other side of the world, something had occurred, but nobody understood how terrible it actually was. Over the course of the hours that followed, the truth gradually became public knowledge. A night that was supposed to be peaceful has instead descended into a state of mayhem. The press was eager to obtain information. There was a surge of interest from news organizations throughout the world, and it was quickly apparent that this was not merely another headline. It was a time of reckoning for the entire world. Around the televisions and radios, people from every continent gathered together. A large number of mourners flooded the streets outside of Buckingham Palace. The messages were pouring in from every nook and cranny of the earth. But despite the public's best efforts to comprehend what had transpired, they were unable to get rid of one question that remained unanswered. What prevented the casket of Diana from being opened? At first glance, it might have appeared to be a piece of trivial information, but in a universe where everything about Diana felt so intimate and so open, this particular moment felt extremely different. In the past, she had always been very generous with the people. Why should this particular element be kept secret? The lack of sound added another layer of intrigue. There was no noise from the royal family. There is no official statement that has been issued to explain the decision. What's more, that silence simply served to fuel further suspicion. What were they trying to conceal? What was the reason behind the sensation that there was something that was too terrible to reveal? Following the public's first glimpse of the casket draped with the flag, questions instantly followed. It was a custom, right? Or was it just a matter of royal protocol? There were many who believed that the decision was made in order to respect individuals' right to privacy. Some others muttered that there was something else going on behind it. Curiosity was not the only factor. The situation was murky. From the beginning, Diana had a strong connection with the people. Her life had been like a public display. In this very last instant, there was a sense that something was closed off. The volume of the whispers increased. It is unclear why the woman who was recognized for exposing her emotions to the world is now being hidden from public view. Some people believe that it was done to shield Prince William and Prince Harry from experiencing any further suffering. Others believe that the royal family intended to preserve a certain level of dignity, even a certain amount of mystery, but nobody really knew for sure. The palace, like it always does, did not make any noise. During that period of silence, the questions continued to be raised. The whole populace expressed their sorrow. There were so many flowers and letters that they overwhelmed the gates of Kensington Palace. Over the course of history, her funeral has become one of the most viewed occasions. While this was going on, the casket remained closed. After a number of years had passed, a revelation that was kept under wraps would at long last provide an answer. This information comes not from a spokesperson or a royal aide, but rather from someone who is at the core of everything. King Charles himself is known. The years went by. The remembrance of Diana continued to be powerful, just as the questions did as well. After then, in a rare instance of candor, King Charles addressed a matter that had been lingering for decades, a reason why her casket was never open to the public. The choice, as stated by Charles, was not just based on the importance of royal tradition. The safeguarding of the monarchy's reputation and the protection of the general populace from sorrow were not the only concerns. There was something much more intimate about it. As a result of the circumstances surrounding what had occurred, he revealed that the trauma that Diana had been through had left physical markings, those that were simply too painful for anyone to see, particularly her sons, and not just anyone else. During that time period, both William and Harry were still in their adolescent years, and were already dealing with intense feelings. On the other hand, Charles stated that exposing them and the entire world to such a spectacle would have been more than anyone should have been able to take. This was not a choice that was taken on a whim. It originated from a place of love, suffering, and a profound yearning to safeguard its source. And for the very first time, the general public comprehended the situation. It was not about concealing something that was embarrassing. Providing protection to those who were most susceptible to suffering was the goal. A decision made in a situation that no parent ever wants to be confronted with. It serves as a reminder that often the decisions that are the most difficult to make are the ones that are made with the utmost care. Diana's influence is still as strong as it was when she was alive. Despite the passage of time, she was not only remembered for her fashion sense or her social standing. What people recalled most about her was the way she made them feel, to be kind, courageous, and empathic. Some people who did not have a voice were given a voice by her. This legacy continues to be carried on to this day. Within their own unique ways, her boys William and Harry continue on the heritage that she has established. Diana is always brought into the forefront by her children, whether it is through their words, their work, or their recollections of their mother. However, there are still certain questions that remain. The reason for this is not that the truth has not been communicated, but rather that her narrative reaches a more profound part of us. The part that wonders how someone who is so highly regarded could have so many things going on behind the scenes. Despite the fact that we have never met her, the part of us that is still dealing with the pain of losing someone who seemed so familiar to us. Even though the closed casket will always be a symbol of mystery, it also serves as a reminder that there are certain times that are not meant to be shared with others. Certain ones are intended to be safeguarded. And it's possible that the royal family honored her more than anyone understood, thanks to their efforts to preserve that last moment. The life of Diana was replete with inconsistencies and contradictions. In spite of being open and guarded, celebrated and misunderstood. In addition, she left the world wondering whether the closed casket was a final shield or a quiet message. This was the case even in her farewell. How do you feel about this? Did the royal family make the right decision by keeping the moment a secret? Should the entire globe have been given the opportunity to say their final goodbyes in person? Post your thoughts in the comments section below. Your opinions are very much appreciated by us. Don't miss out on our next video if you want to learn more about the mysteries that lie behind the doors of the palace. Be sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and enable notifications. Next, you won't want to miss out on what's going to happen.